First off, thanks everybody for coming out. I can't tell you how long Cassie and I have been dreaming about having a conference somewhat like this, but let's get to it. So we're here to talk about when, what, and how much should the youth athlete actually be trained. So with that said, we're going to dive into a little bit, just introducing ourselves first.
And we're going to try to do it with one mic, too. So, my name is Cassie Bosha. I grew up right here in Yorktown Heights. I played softball my entire life, had an awesome opportunity to continue my softball career at the University of Alabama. While I was there, I got my degree in kinesiology. We also won a national championship with the softball team in 2012. From there, I went to the University of Northern Iowa to study biomechanics, and that's when I really started to get into what it truly meant to be an athlete from not just the physical side, but I also dove into the mental side and published a book titled Finished It on Our National Championship Run. And now I get to work here, which is probably the best of it all.
So, my name is Nick Zirio. I went to Fox Lane High School. I played baseball there, graduated from there. And went on to SUNY Portland. I played in 3 national championships there. Unfortunately, didn't win any. But did earn my degree in kinesiology. I then noticed a gap from training a lot of the athletes I work with, where there was this sort of disconnect between the mental side of the game and physical. So I went on and got my master's in sports psychology. I'm now in my doctorate for sports psychology. All the while, got married to my wife Lisa, and we had a son, Luke John.
So, with continuing on, you guys are at Athletes Warehouse. What exactly is Athletes Warehouse? When you guys walked in, we pride ourselves on being a youth training facility, and a lot of people wonder, what exactly goes into that training aspect. And really what we try to do first and foremost is look at an athlete and say, how do we prevent your injury first? Because if we can prevent your risk of injury, we're automatically maximizing your performance. And it's kind of been with that mission statement that we've been working the last 3 years to try to change this industry for the better.
Yeah, I think the most important takeaway sort of from us is probably our mission statement. We are really trying to redefine the way people look at training a youth athlete. Our goal in opening this was hopefully that nobody ever called us a gym. We never wanted to be called that. We wanted to be a safe haven for youth athletes, for the parents, for coaches, for doctors, to know that they're sending their athletes to a facility where our number one mission is to make sure we're pushing the most evidence-based research approach towards our athletes, and we have a team that's working tirelessly to make that really happen. So really with that said, I hit on a point there where doctors can trust us, parents can trust us, and I think that's one of the biggest issues surrounding this industry, especially strength and conditioning. So we've sort of dubbed that the little perfect storm of confusion, really, with what goes on with strength conditioning and the youth athlete. Why is there such a disconnect?
So in talking about the perfect storm of confusion, what exactly goes into that? You have a lot of evidence-based research that's out there on the youth athlete, but it's in the form of a 20-page research article with significant figures and data, and that's dense and really difficult to go through. It's difficult for me as a professional to go through. I can't imagine a youth athlete or a parent or even a coach who wasn't maybe getting a degree in that field. When you turn to social media on the other end of that, you end up getting a ton of information thrown at you, such as yoga, Pilates, CrossFit, Zumba, and it also then turns into, well, what's the best thing that I should be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? And how do I try to kind of clear up this ambiguity that's surrounding strength and conditioning for the high school, middle school, college-age athlete?
Again, I think the most important takeaway from that is that it's not that CrossFit is bad, it's not that yoga is bad, it's not that Zumba is bad. Zumba might be bad, but it's not that a lot of these things are bad, it's just that they may not necessarily be right for the youth athlete, or specifically that particular athlete. And really, the major issue, or sort of the underpinning issue of that all, is the lack of stringency at which we qualify our professionals in this field. So that's actually my son at 6 months old. We got him certified through an organization that's actually used in a lot of membership-style facilities, and the reason being, all they asked for was a name and an email address. And there it was, I was certified. So, yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. But really that's the major issue, and it really what it leads to is this lack of trust. And who am I sending, my child to? This is a person, a parent, a doctor, anybody who do anything for, yet we don't know the qualifications of the individual we're sending them to. And that's the scariest part, and that's really what we're hoping to shed some light on and hopefully disperse.
So with moving forward, when talking about when to train a youth athlete and the timing of training a youth athlete, why does it even matter the timing of that aspect? This term comes into play more times than not, and it's peak height velocity. When you read the definition, when it says the period of time in which that adolescent is experiencing their fastest upward growth, you might automatically assume puberty, but these two are not always correlated in the same way. And Nick's going to dive into a little bit more exactly what implications of peak height velocity mean for us as coaches and for our athletes.
So, I'm not always the best when it comes to reading things or breaking them down that way, so I like using metaphors to break stuff down. So, when we look at peak height velocity, well, great, so it's the time where they have the largest growth spurt, but what does that mean? When am I supposed to start doing that, and what does it really look like, right? So, if we take an individual that we get at, let's say, age 7 to 9 years old, right? Don't think of the cup as small just because they're 7 to 8 or 9 years old. Think of the cup as their peak potential at the current moment, right? Because they're an untrained individual. So if we don't get them at that young age, or we're not able to instruct them on the proper movement patterns at that young age, it becomes very difficult to increase the size of this cup. Okay, so their peak potential becomes very stagnant, very set. All we can do from that point on is fill the cup up. So the hope is that the younger we get the athlete, the more we can get in front of them in terms of movement capacity, okay, getting them to understand certain techniques, certain competencies, then we can start to increase the size of the cup. Okay, as we increase the size of the cup again is representing their peak potential. Okay, one of the greatest attributes this has been proven for is speed development. Speed development by the age of really 11 is pretty much capped in terms of somebody can predict essentially how fast is this individual actually going to be. So with that said, though, I don't want to make it so black and white, right? Certain genetics certainly come into play, right? Sometimes we get athletes who start out and they're this size already, okay? And can we increase that athlete even further? Absolutely, those are your elite athletes. Am I automatically going to go to this size just because I start training? No, genetics come into play, right? I'm not going to start out at this and then become that, which, by the way, is LeBron James, and this is the best athlete we have around here. So just to get a perspective, it's not exactly the same, okay? Genetics are certainly big in play here. I don't want to discount that. But the younger we get an athlete, the more we can get them working on technique-oriented stuff, the better chance we have at increasing their peak potential.
I think one of the main things Nick mentions there is the technique potential. In particular, you're not going to see a youth athlete all of a sudden blossom muscles because they don't possess the correct hormonal response. What we can do is instead prime the body. We can prime their body to say, hey, brain, I want you to tell your body to move in this way, and I don't want your knees to glide as you go to jump and as you go to land. I want your brain to train your body to move a different way. So when we talk about our chronological age that we see on the bottom, what is, should a 13-year-old be lifting? Well, I don't know, some 13-year-olds look like they're still 8, but some 13-year-olds look like they're 17 already. And developmentally, they're ready at that point to be at a different stage than their peers, because we're not just looking at a number, we're looking at them as an athlete, the way they move. And going off of the way they move, technique is probably superior, it's probably king. And in talking about either speed development or strength development, that's what comes first.
So the triangle that's about to slowly appear with these transitions is really how we look at training. okay? And when we talk about training, the number one priority is positioning. And what we're looking at in positioning is sort of what you were alluding to, some of those FMS or some of those screening movements. We want to know, first and foremost, can this individual even get into the positions we're asking them to get into? Or is there something structurally off? Is there a major muscular imbalance? Can that position even occur? Once we've sort of asserted that and we understand that, then we're looking to, can we get this individual to understand how to move the way we're asking them to? Can they perform movements, very basic movements, that let's take a squat, for example. Can they get into the perfect squat technique? Or are there issues with their connecting, their sort of what we call muscle mapping? Is the brain to muscle connectivity not there yet? We need to work on that before we venture into
speed, okay? And that's the number one thing anybody ever talks about when they come in. I want to get faster, I want to move faster, I want to be more powerful. The greatest comment anyone ever said to me is that they came and watched the training session and they said, your athletes are moving like they're underwater. I said, yeah, because I make sure that they can complete a squat, let's say, by moving 10 seconds to get to the bottom before we ever add speed to that movement. Not only can I see how they move, but they can start to understand the movement better. They understand what position their body has to be in at every single moment. After that, then I can say, hey, you're only going to take 5 seconds to go to the bottom of the squat, then we'll go to 3 seconds, and then I'll have you move at a normal rate. Not once did I mention load, which is at the very top of this pyramid. It's actually the smallest factor, the last one that we'll consider. I need to make sure an athlete can move properly before we even add that extra stimulus to their body. And unfortunately, when people think about strength and conditioning, they automatically think of a barbell, or they automatically think of lifting weights. They think of a growth plate being stunted. They think of a potential risk of injury, where that is, in the last 20, 25 years, been the exact opposite of what this industry has been trying to do for youth athletes. And unfortunately, a lot of people view this triangle or a coach to an upside-down triangle, where load becomes the most important. It's how fast you move the load. And instead, our main quote you see when you first walk in the building is starve the ego. Can you take weight off that bar and trust that you need to move properly before you add weight? Okay, can you trust that you need to move the weight properly instead of just how much weight you move?
So this is obviously a hot topic that's been hit on a couple times already tonight. We have a little different play on it, simply because I actually like the word specialized. I hate this negative connotation that runs around with a specialized athlete. To me, so we've sort of come up with this scenario, is an athlete who's adequately prepared for the demands of their sport, both physiologically and psychologically, right? So this is an athlete who's ready to handle the load, ready to handle those demands. And the only reason they're ready for all that is because they were trained properly throughout that entire time. And I think everybody's hitting on that same thing. We just like the word specialized, so we want to break that chain. The overuse injuries that we're seeing are without a doubt from repetitive actions, from baseball throwing, right? We see a high school baseball player. They end up going from their high school baseball season of 25 games right into the summer, where they're playing another 75, and then they got another 20 in the fall, and before you know it, this kid's throwing more than 3/4 of MLB, right? So absolutely, where is the time for rest? Where is the time where this athlete is taking a moment away and is recovering from their sport? Not only recovering, but where are they strengthening so that they can handle those loads? And that's sort of our mission. One of the words we can't stand is sport-specific. Why? Because a sport-specific movement has become this incredible phenomenon where Instagram and Facebook, you come out with this exercise where a kid's standing on a Bosu ball with a squat bar on his back and trying to touch his toes. And all of a sudden, that's the new greatest exercise. A sport-specific movement is a squat, is a clean, is a jump, is a vertical leap. It's understanding how to do these movements and having the prerequisite strength to be able to handle them, because they represent a lot of the same movements we do on a daily basis, not only in sport, but out of sport. So, the videos no load. So we have just some example of what we consider sport specific. So if you look at the top video, we're doing a vertical leap and a clean there, right? Both of those exert what? Power. And really, when I'm thinking about strength training, I'm not chasing movements. I'm chasing attributes. One of the attributes I want to hit on is power. One of the attributes I want to hit on is strength. Right? Both of those combined will exude the movements I need to do. So really, it's some of the things like this that we hope can get into people's heads when they think about a specialized athlete and understand that one of your seasons needs to be a strength season. If it's not a strength season, you're going to be in trouble, and there's going to be a point in time when you're not adequately prepared for the demands of your sport.
You know, I was the sport-specific athlete to a T, and not anyone's fault. I was told, hey, if you take 300 swings a night off of a tee, you're going to be a great hitter. I said, great, I'll do it every night, and I'll do it with a weighted bat, and I'll swing with cameras, and I'll do everything I possibly can because I want to play at the next level so badly. And I showed up to college with a massive back injury. My body was not prepared to handle the demand of the sport that I was in love with. There was no psychological burnout. I loved every second of taking those swings at night, but my body was not prepared, and I got to the level I had dreamed of playing at, and I played hurt my 4 years. And it's not okay. It wasn't a fault of anyone. It was just the lack of knowledge that was out there. What did I actually need to be doing? I probably wasn't doing my sport-specific violent movement 300 times a night. You know, a part of what Nick and I had set out to do, we were standing in this turf area. It was actually housing boats about 3.5 years ago, and we said we want to be able to change this industry for the better. We want to try to reduce that risk of injury as much as we can, and help youth athletes, especially in this area or just in this industry, try to completely change that image. So hopefully with symposiums like this and information like this getting out there, we can definitely get there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Have a seat, and we have a few minutes for some questions. I don't know if there's any questions from the audience for any of the speakers. All right. Yes.
Not have this information, trying to